I ask you the question again, which one of these, Dave, is the short swing, which is the long swing? There's a distinct difference now on this one now being a lot smaller, a lot narrower with the setup. Yeah, you can see now you're playing a shorter shot. And as the club goes back, okay, as you go back, okay, look how you've allowed the arm to kind of just sort of hinge this way as opposed to doing that. So the wrist hinge has been maintained, yes. You're a lot looser. The weight of the golf club is kind of swinging around your centre point. You're not kind of dragging it back this way as you're on the left-hand side here now. As you swung through on this one now, we saw even there's a reasonable strike on the mat. It's a bit matty first, as you said. Yeah. Head is just down and still looking down here, whatever it may be. Whereas this one here now, as you swing through, it goes back a little bit further, which is why the distance was a little bit longer, which is fair enough. Okay, I'll go through now. As you then swing through, look at that movement. Right. Everything now is just sort of cleared and twisted towards target, no head down. What we would look at then, if we sort of think of the golf swing, is a circle. Okay, wherever you stop on this sort of circle, on this circle, depends how far it's going to go. So, for example, we say if you went back kind of to there, that would be a 10, 11 yard shot. If you went back to here, that would be a 20 yard shot. If you went back to here, that would be a 30 yard shot. This is obviously just guesstimates. If you go back to there, that was your 40 yard shot that you just hit a minute ago, okay? If you go back further, obviously with a fuller swing, 80, 90, 100. But what we're doing is we're always accelerating the club through controllably. We're not trying to whack it, but we're not trying to decelerate. That's the big thing. I think the thing with chipping especially, with a full swing, because it's full, there's less to think about in some ways. You haven't got to think about how far to go back because you go back as far as you physically can. And then to come back down, well, okay, I'm all the way back here now. I've got all this space and time. I'm just going to go, okay, a full swing hit. And you never play a full shot and go, don't go too far. You just hit it, don't you? When you've got a shot 30 yards or 20 yards, there is a too far element that could come into the shot. So when you swing back, if you go, oh, I've got too much power now, I've got to start trying to take power off, and then you start trying to quit on it or stop on the ball or tense your muscles up. And the way we try and slow the club down very often is just grab the club with our hands and arms and tense, and then we just scull it across the green or thin it, okay? So that can be a problem. The other end of the spectrum we see a lot of times is guys when they think, oh, I must swing back shorter. They go back to actually probably the right length, but their brain thinks, is this enough power? And they try and add power back, and then they go, and they get twitchy. So for me, rhythm, and talk about ballroom dancing, tempo, rhythm, and just your change of direction needs to be nice and smooth, okay? So you set the distance by how far you go back, and that change of direction down is going to be a gradual kind of acceleration. We don't want to go back to a point where it's like, okay, we've got too much power now, I've got to try and slow it down, or too short where you go, ooh, a bit jabby. So when you're trying to learn your yardages, what I encourage guys is don't actually have a target. Just say, okay, focus on I'm going to swing to here and through. Here and through. Then you've got nothing to try to gain towards it. I'm not trying to go to a 10 yards or a 20 yards. You hit 5 shots. And okay, right, I hit 5 shots. Walk to them and pace how far they've gone. Okay? And okay, well, if I do this and this on a regular basis, that gives me 14 yards. Okay? If I think, okay, I want to go further, I'll go back further. And you go back a bit longer and say, okay, how far is this going? Right, okay, I'll pace to that. It's gone 26 yards. Okay, there's some different numbers around the body. And it's only going to be a small little change from spot to spot. So as you go back, the amount you go back will just vary a little bit. And there'll be times when you get it wrong. But I think as long as you can commit to the yardage you've gone for, commit to the swing and get a nice change of direction, not too jabby to try and add power or too slow to try and take power off, you will perform a better shot. Because I think personally, once you get an understanding of how far roughly the club needs to go, you're not going to go that far or that short back. So the worst case, you might be 10 yards out going back. But if you come down with a fairly good contact, you'll be 10 yards too far, 10 yards short. Still on the green, isn't it? If you try to panic...
The big thing is you get the ball on the green.
Exactly. If you try and panic... Exactly. If you, a 30-foot putt, you could 2-putt, can't you?
Exactly. Well, it's like people saying, I'll get it over the bunker, I'll stop it by the pin. Well, thing, just get it on the green.
Exactly, yeah. So
going back to the yard,
of course, yeah.
So I got a pitching wedge.
Yep.
Pitching idea. The same principle obviously applies for the 7 and the 9.
It would just be a very distant. So if I just do some...
7 would go, if it's the same swing here.
Yep.
With the 7 iron, produce a little bit more.
More power. So if I just I'll draw some lines on this thing, which the video will send through you. So if I just draw them here, so if you swing back, and we'll just say on this one here, you go back to what I call 9 o'clock position, okay? So your club you can see now is kind of on that 9 o'clock position, okay? So if that is your pitching wedge, which is one you had there, okay, we would say a pitching wedge on that 9 o'clock position we'll say is 30 yards, give or take, okay? If you were playing a 7-9, okay, that would be 40 to 45 yards, okay? Your 9-9 would be somewhere in the middle, 37 and a half, whatever. Now, your pitching wedge would probably be somewhere around 50-50 in terms of air time and roll. So it might land at about 15-20 and roll 10-15. Your 7-9 would land probably a similar distance, because it's going flatter, it rolls 20 yards further, which is where you get more of the distance from, you see. So the actual length of carry wouldn't be that much different.
No, just
it's the trajectory. So a pitching wedge, you're going to land here and go duh. A 7-9 would kind of land there and then do that. So you get a different result in terms of where it ends up, but how they land is not going to be that far apart, because it's still a metal object that's going to be hit with a similar amount of force. It's just the angle the golf ball's hit on will vary, which in turn will give you a different shot. Exactly. You need a bit of height, don't you, to get over that bank? But those distances you'll kind of learn, and again, a bit of practice. The key thing for me today, if you can actually just eliminate the likelihood of hitting the unmentionable, we hit 1 in 100, which you get the odd one or two, obviously, but if it's just going to be one we're not going to have on a regular basis, at least then you can start thinking, if I swing to here, I get a yardage. If I go further, it goes further. Change club, it goes further or less. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Excellent, good stuff, okay?